My daily days struggle. My daily days struggle with English often felt overwhelming, a constant whisper of doubt echoing in my mind. Each morning I woke up determined to improve, yet quickly found myself wrestling with tricky phrases or peculiar idioms. It wasn't just about vocabulary. It was the whole intricate tapestry of communication that seemed perpetually out of reach, leaving me feeling disheartened and frustrated by my slow progress daily. I desperately wanted to speak in British English, to sound natural and fluid, like the characters in my favorite BBC dramas. Their accents, their witty banter, their nuanced expressions captivated me, but mimicking them felt like an impossible task. The gap between my aspirations and my current abilities loomed large, a chasm I feared I might never cross, despite my persistent yearning to master the language beautifully. The constant question plaguing me was, why I always make mistakes? Felt like an inescapable loop. Even when I thought I understood a grammar rule, an unfamiliar situation would arise, and I'd stumble, mispronounce, or completely misuse a word. This perpetual cycle of errors chipped away at my confidence, making every potential conversation feel like an impending public failure. I'd listen and practice tirelessly, repeating phrases over and over, trying to perfect intonation and rhythm. Hours dissolved into dedicated listening sessions, dissecting podcasts and news reports, hoping sheer exposure would magically unlock fluency. Yet, the leap from understanding to articulate speaking remained elusive, a barrier that seemed to mock my diligent efforts, leaving me quite perplexed. The challenge of how to talk to anyone in English became my Everest. I'd rehearse conversations in my head, meticulously planning every word, only for real-life interactions to deviate wildly from my script. Fear of judgment, of sounding foolish, often sealed my lips, trapping my thoughts behind a wall of apprehension, making genuine communication feel utterly daunting and unachievable. One particularly disheartening evening, after another failed attempt at a simple conversation, I felt a deep wave of despair wash over me. The desire to give up was potent, whispering seductive promises of peace from this constant linguistic battle. My progress felt stagnant, like wading through thick treacle, and the sheer effort seemed to yield minimal returns, leaving me utterly exhausted. But then a flicker of resilience ignited. I remembered why reading is so important. I had heard it countless times, but never truly embraced it as a foundational pillar of language acquisition. My approach had been too fragmented, too focused on quick fixes rather than building a robust, comprehensive understanding of the language's core structure and rich vocabulary. Why reading is important struck me with renewed clarity. It wasn't just about learning new words. It was about internalizing sentence structures, understanding contextual usage, and absorbing the natural flow of English. Books offered a quiet, pressure-free environment to engage with the language at my own pace, without the anxiety of immediate verbal response, a truly invaluable resource. I started small with simplified readers, gradually progressing to more complex texts. Each page turned was a victory. Each new word absorbed a small triumph. Reading exposed me to authentic British English phrasing, idioms, and cultural nuances in a way that rote memorization simply couldn't achieve. It began to build a solid foundation within my understanding. This dedicated reading practice subtly began to reshape my internal grammar. Sentences started to form more naturally in my mind, not as rigid constructions, but as flexible expressions of thought. The visual reinforcement of written words helped cement their meaning and usage far more effectively than merely hearing them or struggling to recall them during conversation. A powerful shift. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but a gradual, steady accumulation of knowledge. The more I read, the more I understood the subtle intricacies of the language, the better equipped I felt to construct my own sentences. Reading became a sanctuary, a place where I could confidently explore and absorb English without fear of immediate judgment or embarrassing errors. My next focus shifted to how to improve your fluency. I realized that fluency wasn't just about speaking fast. It was about speaking smoothly, with minimal hesitation, and expressing ideas clearly. Reading provided the input, now I needed to find a way to convert that input into confident, spontaneous output, bridging the gap between passive knowledge and active application. The way of learning English needed an overhaul. I moved beyond just consuming content to actively engaging with it. This meant not just listening to podcasts, but repeating sentences aloud, mimicking the speaker's accent and rhythm. It was a conscious effort to internalize the sounds and patterns of British English, not just to understand them passively anymore. I embraced shadowing, a technique where I would listen to a native speaker and try to speak along with them simultaneously. This felt awkward at first, a clumsy dance of words, but it forced my mouth muscles to form unfamiliar sounds and connections. It was like a vocal workout, stretching my linguistic capabilities in real time, pushing me past my comfort zone. British English-specific resources became my constant companions. I devoured BBC News clips, watched comedies, and listened to radio dramas. I paid close attention to colloquialisms, common phrases, and the specific intonation patterns that distinguish British speech from other English varieties. Every detail was an opportunity to refine my ear and my accent. I started keeping a pronunciation journal, noting down words I struggled with and practicing them repeatedly. The schwa sound, the diglottal stop, the clear R versus the non-rhotic R. These subtle distinctions became my obsession. It was a meticulous process, but each small improvement built layers of confidence and refined my spoken English considerably. Understanding the nuances of British humor and social etiquette through these resources also proved invaluable. It wasn't just about the words but the cultural context in which they were used. This deeper understanding allowed me to appreciate the subtleties of conversation and communicate more appropriately in various social settings, truly enriching my interactions. I began to notice that my mistakes were becoming less frequent, and when they did occur, I could often self-correct more quickly. This shift from constant error to quicker recovery was a significant boost to my morale. It indicated that my brain was starting to process English more efficiently, forming more robust neural pathways for the language I was acquiring. The fear of making mistakes still lingered, but it was no longer paralyzing. I understood that errors were part of the learning process, not a sign of failure. This mental shift was crucial. It liberated me from the pursuit of impossible perfection and allowed me to focus on the overarching goal of effective communication rather than flawless grammar every time. One day, I decided it was time to take first step for talking. The sheer terror was palpable. My heart pounded, my palms grew sweaty, but I knew I couldn't hide behind books and podcasts forever. Real communication required real interaction. No matter how daunting the initial prospect seemed, I had to confront my fears head-on. My first real attempt was with a kindly shop assistant. I needed to ask for directions, a simple enough task, but my tongue felt like lead. I managed to stammer out a few words, my voice barely above a whisper. Her patient smile, however, was all the encouragement I needed to push through the initial awkwardness and complete my query successfully. That small victory, though seemingly insignificant, ignited a spark of courage. It proved that I wouldn't crumble, that people were generally understanding, and that even imperfect English could convey meaning. This initial positive reinforcement was incredibly empowering, chipping away at years of accumulated apprehension regarding speaking aloud in public. I made it a point to seek out opportunities for brief conversations, ordering coffee, asking for recommendations, making small talk on the bus. Each interaction was a mini challenge, a chance to apply what I had learned. These low-stakes scenarios were perfect for building confidence without the pressure of a formal discussion. A perfect training ground. Sometimes I still fumbled for words or my accent slipped, but I learned to laugh at myself. The embarrassment gradually faded, replaced by a growing sense of accomplishment with each successful exchange. The more I spoke, the more natural it felt, and the less daunting the prospect of speaking to others became over time and consistent practice. The journey was not linear. There were days when I felt I had regressed, moments of frustration where old mistakes resurfaced. But I learned to view these as temporary setbacks, not permanent failures. Resilience became my companion, pushing me to persist even when progress seemed slow or invisible, knowing the effort was always worthwhile. I joined online language exchange groups, specifically seeking out native British English speakers. These virtual conversations provided a safe space to practice, make mistakes, and receive constructive feedback. The varied topics and casual atmosphere fostered genuine connection and significantly boosted my conversational fluency, feeling more natural and authentic. One particular exchange partner, an elderly gentleman from Manchester, patiently corrected my pronunciation of schedule and explained the nuances of bloody as an intensifier. These real-world examples were far more impactful than any textbook explanation, embedding the knowledge deeply within my understanding of everyday spoken language. I also started recording myself speaking, playing it back to identify areas for improvement. It was cringeworthy at first, listening to my own hesitant voice, but it provided objective feedback that I couldn't get from just self-assessment. This analytical approach helped me pinpoint specific errors and target them for focused practice sessions. This self-reflection, combined with consistent application, accelerated my progress significantly. It was no longer about haphazard learning, but a systematic approach to identifying weaknesses and transforming them into strengths. The way of learning English was becoming clearer, more structured, and remarkably more effective for my personal goals. I embraced the idea that perfect fluency isn't the goal. Clear, confident communication is. This mindset shift removed an immense burden. It allowed me to enjoy the process of learning, to celebrate small victories, and to connect with people without the crushing pressure of linguistic perfection always looming over my head, creating a healthier learning environment. My daily struggle began to transform into a rewarding daily challenge. The anxiety started to dissipate, replaced by a growing sense of excitement and curiosity. Each interaction became an opportunity to learn, to experiment, and to expand my linguistic repertoire in real time, making the entire process far more engaging and enjoyable for me. I discovered that the how to talk to anyone in English question had a simple answer. Just start. The first step is always the hardest, but once taken, the momentum builds. It's like pushing a heavy stone. The initial push requires immense effort, but then it gains a satisfying inertia, making subsequent pushes much easier and less taxing. This realization was liberating. It wasn't about possessing an encyclopedic knowledge of grammar or an immaculate accent before speaking. It was about the willingness to engage, to try, and to accept imperfections as part of the journey. This newfound courage was a game changer, opening up a world of possibilities for me to explore. I started to genuinely enjoy the process of learning. The initial fear gave way to a playful curiosity about words and expressions. My mind became a sponge, eagerly soaking up new vocabulary and intricate grammatical structures, always eager for more knowledge, and continuously seeking out new and exciting opportunities to expand my English repertoire. The importance of consistency became undeniably clear. Even short, daily practice sessions yielded far better results than sporadic, long bursts of study. Little and often became my mantra, ensuring that English remained an active, living part of my daily routine, rather than just a chore to be endured periodically and without much enthusiasm. Reading continued to be my secret weapon. I found myself devouring British novels, articles, and even online forums. The sheer volume of exposure to authentic language, presented in diverse contexts, deepened my understanding and expanded my vocabulary exponentially, making complex ideas more accessible and comprehensible for me. Listening and practicing with purpose remained paramount. I continued to immerse myself in British English media, actively listening for intonation, stress patterns, and common expressions. Shadowing became second nature, effortlessly mimicking native speakers, refining my accent to sound more natural and authentic within conversational settings. I learned to embrace mistakes as valuable learning opportunities, not as embarrassing blunders. Each error was a signpost, guiding me towards an area that needed more attention, a chance to solidify a shaky concept. This positive reframing of mistakes transformed them from deterrents into essential tools for continuous improvement in my linguistic journey. My journey also taught me the power of community. Connecting with other learners, sharing experiences, and celebrating successes fostered a supportive environment. We encouraged each other, shared resources, and even practiced together, making the daunting task of language acquisition feel less solitary and much more achievable for all involved. The way of learning English evolved into a holistic approach, encompassing reading, listening, speaking, and writing, all intertwined. It wasn't about isolating skills but integrating them, allowing each to reinforce the others. This comprehensive strategy provided a robust framework for sustained growth and deep understanding, a truly effective method. My fluency improved dramatically. Conversations no longer felt like a struggle, but a joyful exchange of ideas. I could express complex thoughts, tell stories, and even participate in playful banter with native speakers, a previously unimaginable feat that now felt completely natural and effortlessly integrated into my everyday interactions. The confidence I gained spilled over into other areas of my life. The courage to speak in a foreign language translated into a broader willingness to take risks, to try new things, and to step outside my comfort zone in various challenging situations, proving that language learning yields benefits far beyond simple linguistic competence. I realized that why I always make mistakes had transitioned into how I learn from my mistakes. The emphasis shifted from self-blame to proactive improvement. This fundamental change in perspective empowered me to approach challenges with curiosity and determination, rather than with dread and debilitating self-doubt. The initial terror of how to take first step for talking had transformed into a joyful anticipation of connecting with people. Each new conversation was an adventure, an opportunity to learn not just about the language, but about different cultures and perspectives, broadening my horizons considerably and enriching my life immensely. The British English nuances that once seemed so elusive now felt intuitive. I could discern regional accents, understand subtle sarcasm, and even use appropriate levels of formality depending on the social context. This cultural immersion deeply enriched my linguistic abilities and made my conversations more meaningful and authentic. This journey was a powerful testament to the fact that consistency, coupled with the right strategies, can overcome any linguistic barrier. It wasn't about innate talent, but about sustained effort and a relentless belief in my own capacity to learn and grow, even when faced with significant challenges and setbacks along the path. My daily day's struggle had truly become my daily day's progress. The feeling of being stuck had vanished, replaced by a constant forward momentum. Every day presented a new opportunity to refine my skills, to learn something new, and to articulate my thoughts with greater clarity and confidence than ever before. A truly transformative experience. The path to fluency is ongoing, a continuous process of learning and refinement. But now I approach it with excitement and confidence, no longer fearing the occasional stumble. The fear of mistakes has been replaced by the joy of communication, a profound and empowering shift in my overall perspective on language acquisition and personal growth. I now actively seek out opportunities to talk to anyone in English, embracing every chance to practice and improve. Whether it's a quick chat with a neighbor or a lively debate in an online forum, I engage with enthusiasm, keen to apply my growing skills and deepen my understanding of the language, always striving for new levels of mastery and competence. The profound importance of reading, as a cornerstone for vocabulary and grammar, continues to guide my learning. It remains an invaluable resource, providing the rich linguistic input necessary for sustained growth and refinement of my English abilities, ensuring a strong and comprehensive foundation for all other language skills I acquire. And listening and practice to authentic British English remains crucial for honing my accent and intonation. These auditory inputs are vital for sounding natural and integrated, allowing me to blend seamlessly into conversations and express myself with the characteristic charm and cadence of a native British speaker, making my interactions more fluid. My personal way of learning English is now a blend of structured study, immersive practice, and genuine enjoyment. It's a holistic approach that acknowledges the interconnectedness of all language skills and prioritizes consistent, meaningful engagement over rote memorization or sporadic, intense bursts of study, truly maximizing my learning potential. The key lesson remains: how to take first step for talking is the most vital leap. It unlocks the entire learning process. Without the courage to speak, all the reading and listening remain passive knowledge. Active output is where real fluency blossoms, where theory transforms into practical, confident communication for anyone. So, if you're experiencing why I always make mistakes, remember it's a phase, not a permanent state. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep pushing forward. Your mistakes are stepping stones on the path to fluency, invaluable teachers guiding you towards linguistic mastery and ultimately, confident and effective communication. Ultimately, my journey from struggle to conversational confidence taught me that persistence, coupled with strategic learning methods, is the true key. Every small effort compounds, leading to significant breakthroughs. The joy of expressing myself freely in British English now far outweighs any past frustrations. Truly a remarkable transformation.